how do the Bills mitigate that? Because I think a lot of fans are nervous about that.
I think we're going to say the same thing. Throw the ball to
James Cook.
Oh, we're not going to say it. The running backs.
Yeah.
That sucked. Don't be mad at the player.
Right.
Hate the game.
That's it.
You were so
I will
close.
just say this. Just tonight or whatever you do in a moment for a little peace, meditation, prayer, whatever it is, say one for the old man when he's taking his Pilates class. Because it's going to be tough. But don't worry. I'll do it.
This is the Buffalo Plus Podcast, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
All right. Hello, and welcome to the Buffalo Plus Podcast, presented by Connors and Ferris. We want to thank you all for coming here to Thirsty Turtle in Victor, New York. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates, I am Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. We really want to say thank you to everyone who came out today to the meet and greet, just to see so many Bills fans and see so many fans of our channel. Mike, this is really cool.
Yeah, this is awesome. We have a great crowd here in Victor tonight. They're fired up. They're playoff ready.
Yes.
And we can't wait to talk about this team and this game. It has been an incredible season for the Bills. I would say better than most thought coming into the year. They have put themselves in a great spot. Now they just got to take the next step.
Yeah, and that's the big difference is to the expectations and the pressure that is on this team, Jenna. From when they started training camp, we sat there at Fisher and we went, this team could be pretty good. And we also went, this team could be pretty bad. Like we don't know which way this team's going to go. And now looking at it, after 18 weeks, heading into the playoffs, a 2 seed, a home field advantage, all these things, it's flipped.
Yeah.
Because the national media said, hey, third place in the division, the window's closed. I've joked around about it. Oh, it stinks that the Bills are so good this year when their Super Bowl window is closed. It's just too unfortunate that this is the year.
I think back to when we were at camp, and you're right. We thought this could be good, or this could go very, very wrong for this Bills team. But to see how they have battled throughout the season, to see players like Mack Hollins step up in the way that they had, and now you get to the playoffs, and now, Mike, all the pressure is once again on this Bills team because of what has not happened in the past. Yeah,
because the pressure is on this team because they have number 17 at quarterback, right? Because he's incredible. Josh Allen has the most touchdowns and the most yards for a quarterback per game in the playoffs than anyone in history.
Yeah.
He has been that guy. You guys all know that. They haven't lost these games because of Josh Allen. And the rest of the team's got to be with him. And I think this has been his best year. He trusts his team and enjoys this team more than anyone he's played with. I don't think there's any question. That is a man who is happy in his life and happy on the football field right now.
On and off the field.
He is right now.
And Deion Dawkins has talked about that. And then also I think Sean McDermott spoke really about this season of how when Josh Allen sets his mind to something, he talked about going into the season, the turnovers, and how he wanted to essentially eliminate that. And Sean McDermott said when Josh Allen has something on his mind, he is a dangerous man to stop.
But it's not just turnovers. It's negative plays in general. It's a lot of times we used to say, like, Josh is rolling out of the pocket, and you'd be like, oh, no, like, what's he going to do? Is he going to lateral the ball to Dawson Knox down the field? Like, what's going to happen?
Is he going to hit Pat DeMarco?
Is he going to smash all of the buttons on the controller? Like, he has been so lethal in those moments of it's controlled chaos. And now when he rolls out of the pocket, you expect it to be a big play completion. Like, and that's where we weren't sure if it was offseason. Did Diggs make Josh or did Josh make Diggs? Like, that was part of where we went to. All of these narratives are now seemingly decades ago because it's a whole new landscape.
Yeah, and those narratives are gone because this guy probably or should win the most valuable player. But when we talk about pressure, that's what adds the pressure now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nobody would have had this team. Now, look, we weren't sure. We all picked them to win the division, and we all knew the Jets were a fraud. Okay, come on, they're a fraud. Yeah, absolutely, right?
Let's talk more about your best friend, Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, my God. Seriously. I mean, I was talking to some Jets reporters, brief little aside here, because I love to talk about the Jets, and they were like, yeah, it's been bad, but, like, who's going to be the quarterback with that? And I'm like, you won 4 games. What difference does it make at this point?
Yeah.
Right? And you see the difference in talent and then talent with the right vibe and the right culture. And there are people sometimes that roll their eyes or scoff when it comes to culture. Josh Allen is a big reason this team has the culture they do. It starts with Sean McDermott. Josh Allen will tell you that. He established that. But Josh Allen is an incredible player, but also an incredible teammate and leader of his group. And I think that's what makes the difference.
I was saying this yesterday at Bill's practice. Like, for Josh Allen being having an MVP caliber season, being worth $250 million, and literally engaged to a movie star, he's one of the most down-to-earth, normal people. And I think that shows in just this team and the unselfishness that you've seen from the entire roster.
Well, that's what Mike and I caught up with Mack Hollins yesterday at practice, and it was the fact of, was Josh everything that you thought he would be? When you saw it from the outside, you come to Buffalo and you get to see it. And he's like, you knew the stuff on the field was going to be unbelievable, and it is. And he goes, but that stuff comes easy to him. It's what Mack said he was most impressed about is that who Josh is off the field. And he goes, to sit down and have a conversation, not about football. And he goes, I've been around a lot of great quarterbacks. And he goes, and they won't give you the time of day unless you're complimenting them in every sentence. Like, that's pretty bold statement to say, like, hey, I've been around diva quarterbacks that I got to pat their back every single time I talk to them. Like, that's not Josh, and I think that is a huge reason to the freshness, the vibe around this team heading into the playoffs.
But fair or unfair, this is where they are right now. Mm-hmm. And Josh Allen has not made it back to the AFC Championship game. Now, I say Josh Allen. It's Josh Allen and Sean McDermott and that Bills defense and everything that goes with it. But you guys know the way this works. It goes on the quarterback, right? It's how many championships does Mahomes have? How many did, when it's Tom Brady or any other player? Once they get one, it changes everything. And he got there in 2020, and I was the only one that went to that game because it was a COVID year. It was so weird. And we went out to Kansas City. And
you drove over a lawn in a parking lot.
Oh,
and
that's
you got
a
yelled
story.
at by security
Did you
guards.
hit a curb then?
That is such a story.
It's like, Mike, hey, we need a live hit from you. And you're like, hang on, this security guard's telling me I can't stay here.
I'm not kidding. He's not kidding. I literally, drove up a curb But I made my live shot. I can tell you I did that.
So he drove around that curb. When you're in L.A., he hits him.
I hit a curb.
I was like, was that the curb? I was like, what do you mean?
You know, it's so funny. I got all these little – but we were in Los Angeles. Jenna's with me. And I made sort of a U. Was it a U-turn in the middle of the road?
A left on red?
Not even a left at the light. He went past the intersection and it's decided, I should probably turn around. But instead of going to the next block and doing a U-turn at another road, he just stops in a light and cuts the wheel to the left.
It was fine. And then, so she goes, you hit a curb.
It was fine.
It was fine.
She goes, you hit a curb. And I go, no, I didn't.
He was perpendicular in the lane.
So then I dropped Jenna off with all of our equipment with our friend of ours who was working. And they got out of the car. And I parked the car. And, the front right bumper was, disconnected from the car. Yeah. So
our bosses are here.
A National Car Rental. I got one by you because nobody said anything. Well, I put it back together. The car was fine. Everything was fine.
Well, no, it's also no, that's not an applause. That's not an applause.
Well, we know he's going to do it again.
The other thing, too, is when he's with you, he's driving.
Yes.
Okay, because you never drive.
Passenger princess can't drive.
But when I'm with him, I'm driving.
Yes.
And then he's giving the worst directions ever, where it's like you get a parking pass, and a lot of stadiums it's red, and there's big signs of follow the red. Now the red parking for media may be a mile away from the stadium. Sometimes they screw you over.
That's too far.
And so Mike will just be like, I'm like, Mike, we have a red parking pass. He's like, go this way. It's like, what? And he goes, just drive past the guy. Or Mike will say, and it's classic, it's smart. I will give you plenty of credit for this. When he's like, just say you're with ABC. Just say you're with ABC. And
Works
he's like, I got to get up to the booth.
Every time.
I got to get up to the booth because I'll be like, we're with local Rochester. And he's like, shut up. Just say you're with ABC. And you got to get up to the booth.
Hey, now I'll just say I'm with Buffalo Plus because that's even bigger. So there we go.
Yeah.
So while they're done picking on me here for a second, back to Josh and the pressure. It is big pressure on this team, right? You guys feel it. Every time you talk to a friend or someone who's a fan of another team, they're like, they can't get past that second round. They can't get back to the championship. They haven't been to the Super Bowl. And they know it. I mean, the reality is you know it, they know it. Sean McDermott certainly knows it. They have the talent to do it. They put themselves in a tremendous spot this year, but they also put a target on themselves again. They are the 2 seed.
Yeah.
Many believe they are the best team, right there with the Ravens and the Chiefs. They lost to the Ravens. They beat the Chiefs. They may very well play both of them, but the pressure really is on starting on Sunday.
But do you feel, Dan, that the team feels that? Because that's one of the things that I had in mind going to Buffalo this week of, like, is the team wearing those expectations? Because let's be real, we all know what pressure can do, especially at this time of year. It's
Creates
a privilege,
diamonds.
but creates diamonds. Yeah.
Very good.
Got it?
Exactly.
That's good. Yeah. Okay, Dan is right. There we go. Okay.
But that pressure, what does that do, and did you feel that?
The pressure is, I still think that, I go back to Brandon talking about it being a year of transition. Like, I still think while this is great and they have proven all of these things and Josh is taking the next step and should win the MVP, like, this is still roster that has some holes in it. So while
no question.
So while I do believe it is a 3-horse race in the AFC and I really think it's wide open, but I do think it comes down to a couple of plays in each game.
Right.
But the most pressure is this game. Like, if the Bills, whatever happens, if Lamar comes into town in 2 weeks and Lamar goes off, like, I think there's a little bit of a nod of, oh, they can't do it again. Like, this is a somewhat flawed roster.
It
Yes.
is, but they've lost to Mahomes 3 times
I get it.
and Joe Burrow.
I get it, but
great quarterbacks, and it's tough losses. Everybody has seen them, 13 seconds. But
I'm trying to break down. There's massive amounts of pressure this week. I'm not sure if there's the pressure in the grand scheme to get to a Super Bowl for the first time in Josh's career.
I hear you. I just think with where the team has overperformed the expectations, that pressure will always be there
Yeah.
because you have Josh Allen. You
Lamar.
I was still talking. But.
Yeah, it's all right. Nobody's got more pressure than Lamar.
oh, I'm so happy that wasn't me this time.
She paused for like a second.
Yeah, you were
just
ready.
jumped right in.
Yeah.
I was ready.
We're always like, it's like a running back. Just hit the hole, man.
Yeah.
And we get a spot.
Yeah.
You were saying?
No, I was just saying, you're right. Like, coming into the season, we didn't think that they would be here, but at the same point, they are here, and they have Josh Allen, and he's having the phenomenal season that he's having. So I think regardless of what the expectations were in August, now in January, it's different.
Jenna is right.
I need
right.
a mug.
The expectations are high. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. We can say if they lose to Lamar, but they'd be home in that game.
Yeah.
And they'd be, the 2 guys for MVP. And we all know, I think the roster, and I think you guys might agree, I think the roster in Baltimore overall is better. I think you could say that maybe Kansas City is close, depending on what it is, but they're in a different place because they've already won their Super Bowls and trying for a third. But I think the pressure is on, but certainly Dan's right, this week is massive. They've got to win. But they face that every year. You've got to win that first game to get the opportunity. They have put themselves in a spot to be home for the second game.
All right, we have a question.
Let us know who you are and what you got.
I like that hat. I know I told you it before. Go Stewarts.
Thank you very much. Hey, this is Dennis from Henrietta. Obviously, the Bills from the AFC. What are your thoughts on the NFC there?
Well, the resident NFC guy, Mike.
Okay,
Carolina.
so you
Okay,
guys all know
Go
this.
Birds!
Go Birds!
Okay, so
Listen, I have been wanting an Eagles-Bills Super Bowl for the last 40 years, okay? I cover the Bills. I grew up Eagles, my whole family going to the games, and I had to watch in person Dallas twice, Washington and the Giants win a Super Bowl against the Bills. And then I'm covering the Bills, and I get to see New England win everything and then beat the Eagles in a Super Bowl. So finally, I got a chance to see the team I grew up watching win a Super Bowl. And I said at the time, I want every Bills fan to feel that, what it's like. Because you think it's never going to happen. It's going to happen for this team. I don't know if it's this year, but it is going to happen for this team. They're too good for it to not happen. Mack Hollins actually was on that team. And that's what Dan was talking about. The NFC does not have the quarterbacks that the AFC does. Now, Burrow's not around, so that's one. But, I mean, you've got Josh, Lamar, and Mahomes. That's a pretty good 3. But I think the NFC has, I would say, when you look at Detroit, Philly, even Minnesota's still coming back. You never know about the Rams, like the way they are.
Yep.
And, I think those teams are all tough, and they would all be tough matchups. But at that point, if the Bills make it to play an NFC team, that means we're all in New Orleans for the game. So that would be a hell of a thing anyhow. So
yeah, I can't even imagine Bourbon Street and what the party would be like in terms of Bills fans there. All right, let's go to Tom. Yeah. Okay.
Tom from Ontario. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Really enjoy
Sure.
everything you guys do. I'm just interested to know your guys' opinion about Cole Bishop and what role he may play in the playoffs. Maybe not this weekend against this Denver team, but if we play a more run-heavy team like Baltimore down the stretch, I think he brings a physicality to his game. I'm interested to know what you guys think.
So, very interesting, because this Hall of Famer at Bills practice this week asked a question about the confidence in the safeties. And Mike, I'll give it to you. I had a good question.
wow.
Credit to you,
Credit
Mike,
to
for,
Mike.
for a
Credit to
good
you.
question.
Sean McDermott, and he mentioned both safeties, the starters, and then he put in Cole Bishop there. And I think Bishop's got a role in this. And I think you're right, physical play. My concern with Bishop is, and Jenna's noticed this from being on the field, there are times Terrell Bernard was like putting him in the spot. I mean, physically, like, hey, like, you got to be over here. That's the biggest concern. He went with, and he did mention this. I said about Micah and Jordan over these years, they had him. Those guys were banged up last year. They got physically beaten up. So it's different. I think the athleticism of Cole Bishop is something they're going to really want. And then, and you look at the way this safeties play, it's not at the level of what Micah and Jordan were, but it's better than I think they get credit for. But I think they want to get Bishop on the field in some circumstances.
Yeah.
And I think he will play some this week.
Yeah, what you get with DeMar is experience and knowledge of the system. It's why I said back in training camp, I was like, he's going to be the starter. It was,
I love how you shoehorn
Yeah,
in
Dan
that
was
you were right.
Yes.
Well, you guys all laughed.
Well, we have Mike Edwards, and it's like,
how'd that one work out? Hey, Mike Edwards and MVS.
I know, Dan had MVS.
We
I was
nailed
like,
those two.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know why you people watch this channel.
DeMar isn't necessarily going to give you the big play ability like Cole is, and like Cole is that athletic freak, and I think what you've seen those flashes, but you've also seen wide receivers run right past them. And if there's one thing that Sean and this Bobby Babbage defense cannot afford in a playoff game, is to have a miscommunication, have some lack of the knowledge of the system, and then get beat. Like, Sean's not going to let that happen. So it is going to be selective. And for as DeMar's above average, but he's not what Micah and Poyer were, but you know what you're going to get. There still is that uncertainty and that risk to reward between Cole and DeMar.
Yeah, I would think Cole is a guy that we're going to see the better version of him next year, but I think that physical ability is something they want to see on the field. And you're right. It's funny. He was there on the field when Derrick Henry went 92 on the first play.
Yep.
And he was there on the field when Collins caught the deep ball. Those are the things, as a rookie, he got thrown out there after missing camp, a good chunk of camp. And he mentioned that.
Yep.
Like, that was tough on him. So it gets you behind physically and mentally. But I do think they like the physical ability. It's just a matter of how much do they trust him on the field right now.
And that trust is huge, especially in this moment when
Yes.
the playoffs, everything gets ratcheted up, everything gets notched up. So let's talk a little bit about this matchup, because Bills and Broncos, obviously the Broncos coming in, they've overperformed their expectations for the season. Bo Nix, their rookie quarterback. Mike, what do you make when you kind of zoom out when you look at this matchup?
Yeah, I think they're a fun team to watch. If you're a Broncos fan, you're like, finally, because it's been – I know they didn't have the length of the drought that the Bills did, but they made some bad decisions, most notably John Elway not picking Josh Allen. He said it's his biggest regret. And
Sean goes, there's a lot of coaches that probably have that regret, a lot of GMs.
Yeah.
I mean, Elway, how in the world you don't pick the big, strong Wyoming kid who plays the game a lot like Elway did, just bigger, stronger, and faster. But Elway's in the Hall of Fame because he ended up winning Super Bowls, and they didn't have the quarterback, and they tried with Wilson and all that stuff. So they take Bo Nix, and you're like, okay. And this kid started every game, was a little rough in the beginning, but Sean Payton can coach some offense, and they have come around. They are a talented team. They have a dangerous streak to them. They are playing with a little house money right now.
Absolutely. The found money in the couch cushion. I feel like for this team, a lot of young guys on this team too, it's like you don't know what you don't know. And going into this playoff atmosphere, it is going to be loud at Highmark Stadium. We already know that. But I think for this team, it's like their accomplishment was making the playoffs. But you kind of have that edge of like the pressure's off for them.
I think they are good-ish football team. And this is something I think a lot of people came up to us and they see that result of 38-0 against the Kansas City backups, and people were like, oh boy, this. Like, if you zoom out a little bit, and I know this world we live in, we joked around about it in the podcast, like, there's a shiny object, like that guy's the MVP, and then that guy's the MVP, and all these things. Like, the Broncos had to win in Week 18 because they lost games that they should have won previously. So they choked away a Bengals game when the Bengals tried to hand it to them that would have made them the playoffs. They lost to a Chargers team that was just more physical than them. Like, if you focus in on one thing, and I think that's what a lot of people were coming up and talking about, and they're like, how do you feel about this game? I go, well, if you look so far into it, yeah, the Broncos will scare you. Zoom out a little bit. This is a team that has struggled against good football teams. This is a team that has struggled against good offenses. So while everybody goes, look at this defense, because they held the Cleveland Browns to 6 points, like, I don't want to hear it. Like, Lamar put up 41 on them. The Chargers' average offense put up 37. Like, they are gettable. Now, they have dudes, and I respect – I was thinking about it. Like, Nick Bonito, I've been saying it all week on the podcast.
Really good.
He is the best player in football that nobody really knows about. He is going to be all over the field. You know, Patrick Surtain, like, they've got guys. But they're still ahead of schedule. Like, this is still a flawed roster, and this is still a game that the Bills should win by 2 touchdowns.
But that's when I think they are so dangerous, because they don't have that pressure and they don't know what they don't know.
Take them out early.
I agree.
It's got to be 14-0, 14-3 early. Don't let them think they can hang around.
What did AJ Epinesa say?
So I asked him about, you got a rookie quarterback. He doesn't know what he doesn't know. And he said, hit him early and often. That's the plan. And I do think there is something to that. Don't let the guy get comfortable. Don't let him come in there and think he can actually play against you. And Dan's talking about their wins. I think their best win was their loss to the Chiefs the first time they played. They lost it on that blocked field goal, but their defense played well. Their offense was okay. That was when I think they started to be better. But there is a sort of a thing about this team. They have not closed games against good teams. They have given up a lot of points against good offenses, and it was impressive for them. Dan and I and Jenna were joking. We were hoping that game was going to be 50-0 against the Chiefs, because they were celebrating, they were having fun, and they deserve that. I mean, it's like when you look at the video in 2017 when the Bills made the playoffs, right? And it was the craziest. We were down there. It was unbelievable. And the thought was, we made the playoffs. Well, the Bills knew they were in the playoffs. That's a Bills team that knows where they're going. I think that's the biggest edge they have, is that this team has been there, done it, the quarterback has done it, and they have the talent to go beyond this.
The experience level.
Yeah, and it's great because you hear the Broncos this week being like, we're not satisfied. We're not satisfied. They are so satisfied. They are so satisfied to make one more trip, let Josh Allen absolutely take over this game, and then go, it was still a hell of a year, guys. That was still, nobody thought we'd be here.
I mean, going into the season, what their win total was five wins? And
they had the worst PFF roster, and they were paying $98 million in dead cap, which proves the salary cap just isn't real.
You see
it's
it
not
again.
real.
He shoehorns his takes
but
in
it's
here.
not real.
It's a skill.
It is. Yes,
well,
we know
an
that.
ACL surgery is not an oil change.
It was like the Bills can't get rid of Stephon Diggs because of the cap. Okay, we always will tell you this. Anytime you got a guy or a woman who's going to tell you a team won't do something because of the cap, just always remember to tell them a team is never going to get rid of a player that they want to keep or that and wants to be with them because of the salary cap. If they say it's the cap, they're lying. And, you know, men lie sometimes.
Imagine that. All right, well, I know a lot of Bills fans that we talked to tonight were nervous about the pressure that the Broncos can bring. Their defensive line gets a ton of pressure. They have 63 sacks this season. The next closest team, the Ravens, with 54.
Yeah.
So the level of which they're rushing the passer. Now, some of those coming at different moments throughout different points of this year where they're not exactly the great talent on the other side. But how do the Bills mitigate that? Because I think a lot of fans are nervous about that.
I think we're going to say the same thing. Throw the ball to
James Cook.
Oh, we're not going to say it. The running backs.
Yeah.
That sucked. You know what I was going to say? I was going to say Josh Allen walks out on the field. Like, he doesn't get sacked.
You're talking about the sacks themselves. Yes, you are right. He's only had
What was the
14.
question?
Well, what do they do about the team that puts on the pressure? They are vulnerable.
She said, what is their plan to stop being the pressure? And I said, Josh just walks out on the field. Josh is he's the anti-sack.
Do they call that in the huddle? What's the play here? Josh is on the field.
Hey,
go.
It's called content. We're trying to entertain.
I got
Do you see what this bit is?
God, I'm learning so much from the kids. I'm telling you.
My goodness.
Yes, it is Josh on the field. And by the way, another little aside. Jenna had the great shot of Josh from the Patriots game because we had somebody ask us, like, what about the loss going into the playoffs? So we're like, Josh ran on the field, handed off. She stayed on him the whole time, and he, with this big smile on his face, jogged off the field to go to the bench, which was hilarious.
Well, it's always, these guys play to win the game. Sean McDermott said all week he had 2 goals, win the game, and be as fresh as possible. 5 minutes left in the game. Great TV cutaway shot, and Josh is yawning for like 30 seconds. And you're like, same, Josh. Is this game over yet? This is awful.
So now he will be running on the field,
Yeah.
which is how the Bills will take care of the Broncos pass rush.
You're right. Josh does a great job. Oh, damn it.
God,
I walked
he
into
just
that.
catches it
but
every
no,
time.
Josh does a great job of avoiding sacks. But, Mike, I think for a lot of fans, you talk about throwing to the running backs, what that can do.
Yeah, they bring pressure. They bring those stand-up defensive, linebackers like Benito. They do bring 5 a lot. So they are bringing pressure. They have been vulnerable to backs in the past game. Mm-hmm. And the Bills are really good at it because Ray Davis can catch the ball, and we love Ty Johnson. I have a friend of mine text me every time. He's like, when Ty Johnson is on the field, something good happens. He's good in pass protection, catches the ball, and has tremendous hair. Doesn't he?
Phenomenal.
Yeah. So, yes, all those things. But I'm jealous of a lot of people with good hair, so that's the way it goes.
I think the game plan, not only that, is they talk about, obviously you have Patrick Surtain, you have Riley Moss. Like, they do have 2 pretty good corners, and so that kind of works well together. I don't think there's an actual stat. I'm sure it's somewhere about, like, coverage sacks, like the quarterback just doesn't see anything and gets sacked after 4.5 seconds, things like that. I think Patrick Surtain is going to be like what Trey White was when he was really good, where opposing offenses would just see where Trey White was and say, he's on the left side of the field, fine. We're just not throwing the ball to the left side of the field. I think Josh and Joe Brady are going to come out there and say, where's he lining up? All right, Khalil, you motion this way, I'm going to throw it to you. Like, I think it's a pretty straightforward approach. You don't have to empty the bag. I think that there is ability in that to just avoid Surtain.
Do you feel like that's almost a benefit to the Bills that they don't, which not often do you feel like, hey, it's a benefit they don't have that number 1 guy, but at the same point, I mean, who's Patrick Surtain taking out of this game?
I talked to a guy that covers the Broncos, and he said the biggest thing with Surtain, when he doesn't have a number 1 receiver to cover, say it was Jamar Chase or A.J. Brown or one of those guys, is he tends to make big plays at that point. He will look to make a big play. I mean, he's got a 100-yard touchdown return this year. The other corner on this team, and you guys will remember, is Levi Wallace is on the Broncos.
I did not
and
know
Levi's
that.
had some rough times. We all liked Levi. Go ahead.
Ugly penny?
You
Yeah.
called,
So there's the saying, it's like it's a bad penny. Dan would always refer to it as an ugly penny. And then he would say Levi's like an ugly penny. I go, why are you calling Levi ugly?
Because I said it was
Because
like
he stayed on the team.
They stayed around. They kept, every time they're like, well, they're going to replace Levi. They're going to draft a corner. They're going to bring a corner in. And Levi Wallace, the undrafted guy at Alabama, just kept winning the job. So
you were right about the point, but it was a bad penny, not an ugly penny.
Who's next?
Who's that? You need to explain that.
So the other day, Dan was doing the TV work, and he put a graphic up on the screen.
I made a really great graphic.
That about, we didn't know who the Bills were going to play in the next game. And a very kind viewer sent me an email to say your reporter behind him had "Who's next?"
Timeout. Timeout.
Who is next?
I'm not great at this.
Right.
Okay.
We know.
So I spelled out who's WHOSE next. And when Mike came back and goes, "Hey, I got an email about you," and I went, "Was it who's?" Like instantly knew it.
Now-
You went, "No, it wasn't anything you did wrong. It was grammar." And I went, "It was who's?" And I went, "That's not
Now,
great."
it was a beautiful looking graphic that he put up there, but in big letters, WHOSE. Who's next?
And we were going into a production meeting for something, and one of our producers was like, "Oh, like you looked up in the AP style book, like you could have looked up the correct spelling of it." And I went, "I did."
Yeah. He
And
found
I
a
still-
word.
and I still got it wrong.
Yes. So
Should I say the 2 cents?
you go ahead.
Well, I was, quick aside, I was reading a script that Dan had wrote while I was doing the TV part of our job. And instead of 2 cents, CENTS, it was SENTS. 2 cents. I had to stop, and I brought over my producer.
Yeah.
I was like, "Do you see this? We love you."
How's
Yeah.
it like to get him picked on a little bit?
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else is new?
All right. Let's talk more about this game
Yeah.
and the matchups. I want to talk about the head coaching matchup because Sean McDermott, Sean Payton know each other from when they were in the NFC days. And I think for this team, we talked earlier about the pressure on Josh Allen and just the Bills in general. There is also a lot of pressure on Sean McDermott.
Ton of pressure on McDermott.
The most.
Yeah, no question.
He has the most pressure.
More than any player, certainly even more than Josh Allen. I mean, you know where Josh is. And there's a lot of fans that get down on Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott has tremendous strengths. Game management at the end of games and big moments have not been the strength. And that is what concerns you the most. I think it's in him to be better. I think he's been inconsistent this year. I mean, you had the Rams loss, did not understand the end of that game. There was a lot of speculation that Josh changed the play there. No one said that, and they ended up using that timeout. I think that's the biggest thing. Sean Payton won a Super Bowl early. Now, since then, his record's right about 500 in the playoffs, and he had great players around him in New Orleans, but he's won a Super Bowl. Sean McDermott hasn't done it. You've got the offensive guy that's won one, and now he's got a young team with a rookie quarterback. He's got the runway here to build this up. Sean McDermott is at that point where it's got to happen for him. He's got Josh Allen in to make it happen now.
I think we all agree that Sean McDermott has the most pressure on the Bills this playoff run. Who's second? Because I have a name.
Who's
Who's
Yeah.
second?
Who is second? Because I have a name.
I think I know what you're going to say, but it's not as. Is it an immediate thing?
Yeah, like if the Bills lose against
I would say Josh.
the Ravens and you're sitting there going, McDermott got out coached, and we're sitting there at the end, what are we going to say?
You're going to say Brandon Beane.
Damn right I am.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Because if they can't get after the quarterback, and if they can't pressure Bo Nix, and we're going to sit there and say, hey, Epinesa and Von Miller hasn't panned out, and Daquan Jones, and where were some of these guys, and where was Dwayne Smoot? Like, we're going to sit there and go, or if guys can't separate, if these wide receivers, and I love this, everybody eats, and it works out, but we've always said it, sometimes you need a dude, and if Khalil Shakir can be that dude, that's great. But this is where the time when stars rise. You know Josh is going to.
Yeah.
But you need to surround him, and again, he's gotten by without it. But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, we could be sitting here going, hey, they didn't have guys win one-on-one. When it's a man whooping another man, as
That's
Daquan
what Daquan
Jones
says. They've had 4 elimination games against the Bengals with Burrow and then with the Chiefs. And I think they have 2 total sacks in those 4 games.
They haven't been in the same area code as the quarterbacks.
Yeah, which is you need to make a play. Somebody's got to make a play. It doesn't even mean you're going to shut them down. There's moments somebody's got to make a play, get to that quarterback. They've done it in other games. They've done it in they've done it. But Jenna made the point this week is like Chris Jones made that play against Josh last year. forced him into a not great throw when they had a chance at Shakir in the end zone. They end up trying the field goal. It doesn't always have to be getting the quarterback on the ground, but somebody's got to make a play. And that falls on Bean. You're right, because Bean has spent a lot of time and effort and money on that D-line.
A lot of resources, money, draft picks, everything. Where is your confidence level on the D-line heading into the postseason?
It's not high. I don't see it as being a big, impactful group. I think individually guys can make plays for them and play well, but Dan talks about the dude. Who's the dude there? I mean, Greg Rousseau is talented, and I think he's a good player. Man, it would be nice to have. I mean, AJ, I like AJ a lot, but he's not scaring other teams.
Ed has flashed at times. You need Detroit Ed. Like, you need a Detroit Ed for 4 games.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, to go on one of these runs and take over.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that it's one of those things where when the Bills have played well and have dominated games this year, you can immediately look at the line of scrimmage and say they were the better football team. They pushed the other offensive line around, and offensively they pushed the defensive line around. So that's my – these games are physical. Like they're usually not up and down track meets, and so you got to be able to win the line of scrimmage, which Sean McDermott loves
to talk about.
Loves the trenches. Let's talk Joe Brady. I know a lot of fans we talked to today are curious about what we expect him to do in the future. Obviously, a couple head coaching interviews ahead. What do you make of that situation, what he means to Buffalo, and your expectation around that?
You know, we've gotten to know him a little bit. We get to talk to him every week as the coordinator, and Josh loves him. You guys maybe you heard the answer. He was asked, what has Brady done for you? And he's like, nothing. Stay away from him. We don't want him to leave. He gets it. He gets how to relate to the players. He's got that to him. And he's a smart offensive guy. He took Josh, who was at a 9.2, and took him to 10 this year. I mean, he's going to probably win the MVP. And he's got opportunities. Teams are interviewing him. Whether one of them pulls the trigger and says, we want this guy to be there, like he has a history in New Orleans, do they go that route? Then the question is, what does he want? If he's going to go there and interview for him, he likely would consider that. I don't know if he would go, but if he gets an opportunity and he feels like he can make it work, he'll go, because these don't come up that often.
I think Ben Johnson bucked the trend last year by being the #1 hottest name OC and saying, no, I'm good.
Now, here's the part I'll push back on that. Ben Johnson didn't want to go to Washington, didn't want to interview with Washington. They got Jaden Daniels.
No, do you think he regrets?
There's worse places to be. Yeah. New ownership, Jaden Daniels in there. He would be coaching.
I think he's okay with the #1 seed in Detroit.
No. But he's an offensive coordinator in Detroit. There is nothing like being a head coach. And when you get your chance, ask Brian Daboll what it's like to get a head coaching job with a lousy quarterback. And that's what they had in New York. And Brian Daboll can coach football. But if you don't have that guy or a guy to work with, that's why that Patriots job is a pretty good job. And I don't know why the Patriots aren't trying to talk to Joe Brady. At least they could find out what it's like to have an organization now, what the Bills are doing. I'm saying to you is, if Joe Brady gets an opportunity, he might need to take it. It's nice to say stay with Josh.
Yeah, well, like his point of like what the Commanders are is like, they had the #2 overall pick. You didn't know exactly what you were getting, and that was a team that was the organization was complete dysfunction. To sit there and be like, he should have known that Jaden Daniels was going to be the offensive rookie of the year, and that this ownership would turn it around.
Well, they would have had a shot. They would have known they would have had a shot at it and didn't want to interview because you want the great opportunity. And look, the guy is a great coach. I'm saying is there are times when Sean McDermott came into Buffalo with nothing. And eventually look at what this team ended up with. And I think Joe Brady's going to have that someday. It's never going to be perfect. But if he gets the opportunity, he's going to take it because these don't come up that. It's easy to say sit back and wait another year.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always happen.
All I'm saying is whether or not Joe Brady goes, and I think he has a very strong chance, hot name.
Yep.
Like I think the Saints connection is a factor. Rest easy, Bills fans, because I think whoever comes in next, they score 30 points a game because Josh Allen is on that level. I think that this is what Joe Brady is taking over, and what he got in Josh Allen was completely different because somebody before said that Ken Dorsey would be a massive mistake, and I knew you were smirking at me because you knew I was going to get Dorsey in there. You knew it.
What if they bring Ken Dorsey back?
Oh, I don't think that. All right, we're going to go to a question in the back. Can you just say your name and your question, please?
Hi, guys. My name's Nick from Rochester, and I want to know, I know you guys are not in the building, but
Yeah,
I want to
well
know,
done.
do you think Mack Hollins will return next year?
I think so.
Go Bills.
I think that, thank you, Nick. I think that what he has shown has been far exceeded the expectations that we had. I wish he wore shoes more, if we're being honest, but I think what he has done has been tremendous in a season where he was kind of a journeyman guy who had experience but never really thought it would come together with this in Josh.
The guy does whatever is asked of him, and he excels at it. He's great in special teams. He's great at his role as receiver. He has become a more reliable receiver. He's got 5. He leads the team in touchdown catches, and he makes no money. There is no reason for an NFL player. There is no reason they wouldn't want to bring him back. And I think he's been at that point where he's bounced around the league a little bit. They would want him. I don't think there's any question they would want him back. Even if he doesn't get as many snaps in the offense, his value to this team has been tremendous at the wide receiver position.
And the one thing that is, we've heard about it before, but maybe it's just been like kind of a passing comment. But the comments have popped up, and it has been said more and more about like the vibe of this team. And Sean has said it, and Josh has said it, and Jordan Phillips has said it. Of like, we want you be who you are with us. Like, be yourself, kind of with.
No, I'm just laughing because Mack Hollins is so himself.
Okay,
Yes,
for a second, I thought you were laughing because you're like, that's not what was said. And I was going to be like, I just botched that.
I mean, the man doesn't use utensils.
But it goes back to Jordan Phillips, too. Like, a guy that has played well at times with Buffalo and has gone elsewhere. And he was just on One Bills Live, and he was talking about how when he went to Miami, and he's like, I would do my thing of, like, pumping up the crowd. And he goes, the defensive line coach pulled me in. He's like, you're not doing that anymore. That's not what we do. And it's like, okay, like, now teams can say, we want you to do what you want to, be yourself, all these things. But it's different when you finally get to actually be here. And Mack, who is a guy that marches to the beat of his very odd drummer, probably it's refreshing to be here. Half the team walks around barefoot at walkthroughs, stuff like that. So, like, I think that there's a difference between, like, oh, it was cool having Mack here, like, whether he was in Miami or Vegas. Yeah, Mack's the funny guy. And I think there's a real difference between feeling like you belong and that this is a place that is accepting.
And he's unbelievable. Not only does he do all this stuff with no shoes and no utensils and all that, but he puts out videos. Dan was talking to him about how he shoots his videos yesterday. He does them on, like, folding laundry and things. He's got all these little tips.
Little hacks.
And I found myself one day, like, listening to it, like, oh, I should try that. And I'm thinking, this is Mack Hollins I'm listening to. But he's a good guy. But if he couldn't play, then you'd say, you move on, you find another guy. When you find a guy who knows, like he says, when he's in that role, this is when teams don't have that good culture. You got to run that route because it impacts your teammate. He said, you run the route like you expect the ball to come to you every time. He does that. Not every guy does that. There are guys, I watch that George Pickens, immensely talented, but sometimes he's not paying attention and the defense knows the ball's not coming his way. You can't have that with a great player, and Mack Hollins does it as the fourth or fifth receiver, or third or fourth, fifth receiver.
He's such a glue guy, too.
The play, don't care who makes it.
That's
it's
it.
Great quote. All right, let's do our predictions, and then credit to me and wrap. So, you want to start, Michael?
Well, I'm in last place, so I lost.
Okay, no. So do we want to do it here?
So here's what I will tell you.
Okay.
I lost. Jenna won. Dan finished second. That's what happened.
That is correct.
So the bet is Jenna gets to pick. And because Jenna's mean, she said the loser is going to do a Pilates class. So the old man's got to do Pilates here. And I was trying to drag Dan in with me.
On the latest You Ask, We Answer video.
And it looks like I'll be solo for this. So
Okay. So,
no.
This is,
You're right.
told
You're right.
No. Now, Dan, I said, come on, Dan.
I'm sitting at home taking care of my kids, and I'm all of a sudden like, oh, let me just see what their video did. Scrolling through the comments, like, Dan stinks. Dan has no integrity. Dan's cheating the system. And I'm like, what did I do?
So let me ask you guys, anybody in here, raise your hand if you've taken a Pilates class.
Yeah, you know then.
How
you
is
know
it?
how painful.
Hard.
It is
like
very
I have my
hard.
friends going, oh, you're going to die. Like that's what they told me. So don't worry. It'll be recorded.
Yeah, we will put out the video.
But I need to clear my name.
Yes.
This is something.
Dan didn't do anything wrong. I just was scared to be by myself.
So we tape that show before we do our podcast. Every Thursday night, we tape a show for the TV. For the TV.
Tape it for the TV.
What did he say? The Twitter? Didn't you say something like that the other day?
The Twitter.
Okay, and Jenna produces a lot of the show. At the last block, we do our picks. Now, Mike goes on radio earlier in the day, and he makes his pick on radio. So a lot of times, his pick is already set. Now, when Jenna and I are working on the show, Jenna doing most of it, she'll go, do you know what your pick is? And I'll go, no, not yet. And so there are times when I haven't made my pick, and everybody's fine with it. And Jenna will go, Mike, who are you picking? And then she'll make her pick. Or Dan, who are you picking? And makes the pick. So we go into week 18, and week 15, Jenna goes, well, the competition's over because the last 3 weeks we're all going to vote the same, and the standings are going to stay what they are. And Mike goes, no, we have to play it out because somebody could pick something else different. So we go into week 18. Jenna's out in seeing family in New England. And I was like, I'm probably leaning Bills. Mike goes, I'm going Patriots. Jenna says I'm going Bills. Then I take a peek at the standings because I'm a smart guy. And I go, wait a second. I could lose and be tied with Mike. So I will pick the Patriots. Yes, there was gamesmanship.
It was smart. It was smart on his part.
Mike did say in that moment, he goes, before he goes out to like the 5 o'clock news, he goes, I'm going to contest. And he goes, I go, well, hey, if the Patriots lose, then I'm going to tie with Jenna. And if the Bills win, everything's fine because I'm still one game ahead of you. Don't be mad at the player.
Right.
Hate the game.
That's it.
You were so
I
close.
will just say this. Just tonight or whatever you do in a moment for a little peace, meditation, prayer, whatever it is, say one for the old man when he's taking his Pilates class. Because it's going to be tough. But don't worry. I'll do it.
I just wanted, because they go on a video and talk about me when I'm not there.
Yeah, it was a good bit, though.
It
worked.
It organically came up, but I understand.
Yes. There was a text message sent to the group. And Jenna texted me the next morning and goes, are you really mad?
I didn't know.
We will have a talk.
I would say we will have a camera there.
Yeah.
We will produce a video.
Now do we want picks?
Yeah, let's do picks.
All right. I like the Bills in this game. I think they're the better team. I think you'll be nervous because that's the way it goes. I think it might be tight in the beginning. I think if they get after Nix early, take him out of his game. This team does not run the ball very well. Mm-hmm. The Bills like to make teams one-dimensional. This team already, to me, is one-dimensional. They have talent. Cortland Sutton, we didn't mention him. That kid can play. He goes up and gets it. But I like the Bills' corners a lot. I'm almost thinking the Bills can get in the 30s like they normally do, but I have 27-17 Bills.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jenna.
This is interesting. Dunn716 writing in from our YouTube channel. You didn't beat Jenna. You tied, so you should still have to do a sudden death.
Well, it's you and me are tied for first.
I know. That's interesting.
Well, we said it was the last place person.
Yes.
We didn't say it was the second.
Don't worry.
and third.
I'm doing the Pilates.
Okay. All right. I know. I'm really trying to get out of this. All right. My pick, I have the Bills winning this one 31-17. I think this Broncos team has overperformed. I think they're going to be taking a step up in weight class, and they are not prepared for what they are going to see in Josh Allen and the stadium crowd and what that will do. I think they've had a phenomenal season, the Broncos have, but I just don't think they're prepared for this moment, and I think that will show on Sunday at 1.
Yeah, I have the Bills winning by 2 touchdowns in this one. I did my math wrong. 31. Do we have 31-17?
That's what you picked 37.
Whose are you picking?
This is also when you boil it down for how good Bo Nix is, and I know he's a 29-year-old rookie that has started 150 games in college, but this is ultimately, it's Sean McDermott against a rookie quarterback, and say what you want, Sean McDermott is a damn good defensive coordinator and can dial up a defense. I think the defense is the story at the end of this one for them playing better and what McDermott will have in his bag to attack the rookie. And then Josh is just Josh. Don't overthink this. This is Josh Allen in a wild card round in the playoffs. He is electric. He is as dependable as they come. When the national media says Josh Allen can't win a big one, they don't know what they're talking about because he has been risen to the occasion under the brightest of lights. I know he hasn't been to the Super Bowl, but I think he takes care of this one easy, 31-17. I'm with Jenna.
Okay. All right. Oh, you're tying with me again.
Yeah. There we go.
All right.
We can't even do a closest to the score.
All right, we're going to do credit to me and then wrap up. So do you want to start, Michael?
So do you want to start?
Sure.
Okay, you can wait if you want to start. All right, I'll start since they asked me.
No, actually I'll start because I'll just get this out of the way.
Okay, go ahead.
So have you ever cooked liver and onions? My grandpa is literally 99 years old. Bless his heart.
Shout out Grandpa.
Shout out Grampy Tom.
Does he like, comment, and subscribe?
He does.
Yeah.
This man never had an email address. He doesn't even have a cell phone, which I respect. But went out to visit him. He's doing well, and he loves liver and onions. So I decided to cook it for him because as a good granddaughter, that's what you should do. He's 99. And I started cooking this, and I was like, what died? Like, I was like, what? Do people eat this? What is this? So, and he was like, you know what, darling, because he calls me darling. He said, I would love to share this meal with you.
Oh,
so I had to.
No.
So credit to me for mustering, eating liver and onions.
And making it for him.
And making it.
Yeah.
I didn't.
That's
it probably
great.
tasted, well, it
Credit
did.
to
I
you.
can tell you it tasted terrible. All right, that's out of the way.
You want me? Okay. So when we started this channel, basically I'd say 4 years ago, we were all the same age. Okay, well let me do my math here. Let me do my math here. They together were my age. Now, 4 years later, they together are older than me. How did that happen? Right? That's the way it worked, right?
Because we go up by 2 every year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Dan is explaining the math.
wow.
Wow, that is the biggest
You didn't
upset
get
of the
it.
night.
No, that was a real moment. I
You
thought
get
were
2
joking.
years every year. I
Yeah.
only get 1.
No, I get it. I get
Okay.
it now. Honestly, Dan had to explain that.
The reason
Credit
I'm
to you.
saying this is I have never enjoyed my job more than I do working with these two. And
She's
it's
gonna
been
cry.
awesome.
She's so gonna
No, I'm
cry.
not trying to make her cry. I started covering the team before they were born, okay? And I still love doing this. I love it. And they've been a big part of that because this has been so much fun, so enjoyable. I can't wait to go to the playoff game. Somebody said to me, couldn't you have other people? I said, I love going to the games. It's why I got in this business. I like, as you could tell, I like talking about it. Oh, my wife is here. She's like, oh, my God, he never stops talking about football. But it's fun, and it's enjoyable, and it's exciting. And Dan's been with me in moments where I'm like, this is why I do this. And it's
Kansas
great.
City
Not me.
2022.
Yeah.
Jenna wasn't there.
No.
He was like, it's
This
just
is great
us.
when Jenna's
He's like,
not
"Yeah,
here."
This is the best.
Now, we were on the
Break it
field in
down.
Kansas City. It was like 2 and a half hours before the
55
game.
degrees.
It was a beautiful day. The Bills ended up winning that game. It was a regular season game, and I was telling Dan, this is why I'm out here. It's awesome. It's great. I love doing it. I love working with these guys. I love having people enjoy the channel. I've been TV for, it's going to be 40 years soon, and I love that.
Yeah.
But this has been the best. Yeah,
Yes.
there we go. But I look forward to it. I want them to win so we can keep doing this, and I want to keep doing it. And so it'll be fun Sunday. It'll be more fun the next week and more fun after that. And I want these guys to get to appreciate what it's like to cover the Bills in a Super Bowl, and hopefully that happens this year.
Yeah. I can do a credit to me every week about my wife or the in-laws that help me keep my litter of kids alive, and it's been a lot. We call it beautiful chaos, and that's exactly what it is at the house. But this week, I'll give it to, credit to you guys for showing up.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
maybe this is, a cop-out, but, credit to the Thirsty Turtle for, having us and setting this up. This is really cool. We joked around about it in the beginning, but, I thought you were going to take the credit to me that I had because, this is unreal. When I got into this business and when we started this channel, we were not good. If you go back and look at, the first videos, it's like Zoom.
We were good.
The production wasn't good. Even the first canvas,
yeah.
the first thumbnails
Ooh,
we
they
made,
were-
it
yeah.
was rough. And now
Yeah.
if they're rough, they were made by Mike. But the point is
true.
this has gone way farther than I ever thought it would go. And to be doing an event that people would wait to talk to me or us is really surreal. So that's credit to you guys for showing up, spending your Thursday with us, the Thirsty Turtle for putting this on. This has been Brian for everything that you do
Yes.
for setting everything up.
Paul, everyone.
We got to get him to
Thank you.
he's
Brian,
gotta get
Paul, Ed, Chuck,
Yeah.
all of the people
seriously,
from the station.
all this stuff, the
John.
podcast studio, everything they've done. We got to get these guys along with us to New Orleans for the Super Bowl.
Yes. Honestly, yes. Also, when we pulled up, I'm always shocked by the support and love. I pulled up and I texted Mike, is there another event here tonight?
Is there trivia also going on in the other room?
Wow. It really is phenomenal.
It's been great.
Yeah, we really appreciate it so much. We're going to wrap up here, but thank you all so much again. It really does mean so much to us. I won't cry, but to see how much this channel has grown.
She's going to cry.
I won't, but it really does mean so much. So
Yeah,
thank
save
you.
the crime for the wedding. That's still a little ways off.
Yeah, I was
That's
just
it.
saying, so much.
I got to get a license to marry you guys.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People don't think we're as close. Like Dan is officiating my wedding. Mike obviously will be
Mike
there.
would talk too much.
Yeah.
She wants it to be a short ceremony.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There'd be
That's
zero
not
chance
happening.
I
that
wanna go to the
Catalana could
party.
do that.
But no, thank you so much for being here, and
Yeah.
we really do appreciate it.
And if you want to join us, as we tell everybody to
like,
comment,
and
subscribe,
subscribe,
and share. There we go.
Thank you
Let
so
people
much.
know about it. We
Yeah,
love it.
we appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time here on the Buffalo Plus channel, presented by Connors and Ferris.